Welcome to the Growth Now Movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, I sit down with Joel Freeman. Joel is a Beachbody Super Trainer. As creator of Lift 4, the 8-week weightlifting and HIIT program, 10 Rounds, which is a 6-week boxing and lifting program, and co-creator of Core to Force, the 30-day mixed martial arts style training program, Joel has motivated millions of people all over the world to get fit and make healthier choices, all while enjoying the journey. His career in the health and fitness industry spans over 20 years, from running day-to-day operations in gyms across the country to directing Group X programming at Gold's Gym SoCal and becoming an international fitness trainer. He has truly done it all. And in this episode, we break down that journey. We talk about the rock bottom moments. We talk about how he found himself training with Beachbody and now obviously having a successful career as one of the most recognized fitness trainers ever. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this conversation that I had with Joel. We had a ton of fun. And I personally share my journey that when I did 75 Hard, it was Joel's workout programs that kicked my ass throughout. So I truly enjoyed being able to connect with him and learn a little bit more about his own personal journey. Now, before we get to the episode, I want to ask a favor of you guys. If you guys are enjoying these episodes, head over to iTunes, give me a 5-star rating, write a review. I love reading every single one of them, and I appreciate you guys so much. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Joel Freeman. Joel, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, dude. I'm happy to be here. It's always exciting to be like on a podcast. It feels so special.
I will say this, I Googled whether you've been on podcasts before. I went into iTunes and like you've done a number of these. I usually say, hey, do you have any questions? Just in case you haven't been on any. Yeah. Like he's been on a few, so I'm sure you're going to nail this.
A few. Yeah. Like not a lot. I mean, podcasts, it's still very a new frontier for me. Like I don't do them. People are like, oh man, you should do one. And I was like, I know, I don't want to. But we got great people like you that are doing them already. So that's why I don't mind. I'd rather come on and be a guest. And then, like obviously someone who has the passion and the expertise behind it, like yourself, I'm going to give it to the expert here.
Dude, I love it. I reached out to you on Instagram and honored you said yes, because you were the person who kicked my ass through 75 Hard and had an absolute blast going through your programs and really getting into a shape that I've never been before, not only physically, but mentally as well. But why don't we start with who is Joel today? And then we're going to break down how you got there and we'll get into all the fun stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a journey of who I am today. That's for sure. And, so 39 this year in September. And, it's really been, I think over the past 3 to 5 years where I've really, if I look back on it and say, like, for the lack of a better way of saying evolved, I think the most evolution that I've had has really been the past 3 to 5 years. And I think it's just been a matter of timing, of professional aspect of it with programs and getting married and just figuring out who I am. And, the people who I've hung out with more over the past 3 to 5 years as well, my boys and the Rat Pack, as we call it. And, who I am today is simply a guy that's just, I'm pushing the gas pedal to the max. And I always kind of joke, I've been going hard since 1982. That's when I was born. So it's like, ha, ha, ha. But it's really, the past few years, I've really decided to, just because I was like, okay, now's the time to do it. And as my buddy says, he's like, man, you're operating like an 11 right now. I'm like, well, good. Cause I'm not planning on taking it down a notch at all. I'm just going to keep going faster as I get older.
Dude, I love it, man. And when you look at your trajectory, look, there's a lot of trainers out there. There's a lot of people who do what you do. Sure. And you're somebody who is I posted that I'm interviewing you. Actually, later this week, I'm interviewing Ricky Williams, former NFL running back as well. But I posted that I was interviewing both you guys. And it was amazing how many more people knew who you were other than Ricky Williams. I'm like, this is insane. Like Beachbody is this massive thing where millions and millions of people are watching you and training with you and all that stuff. That doesn't happen overnight. Let's talk a little bit about how somebody can go from being a personal trainer in a gym and working their way up and finding themselves working with a company like Beachbody. Let's talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, look, the journey started when I was 19, and that was my first job in the fitness industry. And I was working the front desk at a at a gym in West Texas, and it was the night manager, like the night shift, the 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift. So it was a shit shift, and the things that you see and the people you meet and it's very odd. People that work out at 3 a.m. are, never quite normal, not in a bad way. You just never know. But I learned a lot, just right off the bat. And the reason I learned so much is because I was the only employee there. So I had to learn how to sell a membership and fix equipment and, just basic maintenance, all those things, because something breaks down in the middle of the night, you're the only one there. So usually, obviously, as a front desk employee, that's usually about as at the beginning level. So you don't know how to do all these things. So right off the bat, I was kind of inundated into the business, the fitness gym business, I should say. And that's really what kind of started everything for me. It just started as a job. I never had any aspirations of being a personal trainer or even doing this. It was always just like, hey, I just need a job. And that's how it started. And then from there, it just became, I was always good at talking to people, bartended throughout college and as I was doing that and just waited tables. So never had any problem talking to people. And that just in itself really helped propel my career in terms of selling personal training, selling gym memberships, all these different things. But I was always just more on the business side. And, hindsight, that was really what helped me, I think, the most moving forward, because it wasn't just, I didn't know, the fitness part of it came later for me, but the business part came first. So I understood the gym world. I understood memberships, group exercise, personal training, supplementation. I understood the numbers. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of miss on sometimes is they want to become a personal trainer. That's great. Well, you can get a personal training certification pretty easy, but unless you really know how the business works and how to market yourself in that business, then that's really where a lot of personal trainers coming into the business suffer and struggle. So that was really where it went for me. And then the second thing was because people ask me all the time, they're like, hey, how do I get to where you're at in this industry? I'm like, I have no freaking clue, because a lot of it was right place, right time. But that right place, right time came from conversations. And this is what I tell people is this goes for any industry, I truly believe, is you just got to have conversations with people. You got to make friends. You got to make connections, because you never know in any industry how that's going to work for you. And in most industries, in fitness especially, it's very incestuous. Like someone used to work over here, now they work over here. So whoever works over here now works over there. And that's how a lot of my jobs came about. Like where I was living up in Washington State, I was working for the Washington State Department of Health by that point. Wasn't super happy because it was an office job, it was a cubicle job, and I was teaching group exercise class, all these different things. But because of connections I had made in the past, who are now had moved on and were now down in LA at Gold's Gym. That's how I got the group exercise director position at Gold's Gym, Southern California. And that's how I ended up back in LA. So you just never know. So it's been a journey. It's been 20 years in the making. 20, I should say, about 18 before I came into Beachbody. But, or 12, I suck at math. 12 years, because I've been with them for 8-9 years. So, but it's just been a journey, and it's all about conversations, and it's all about going after. And look, experience, in my book, experience trumps everything. It really does. You can learn. I don't remember everything from my personal training manual. I've forgotten probably most of it, but that experience of understanding how to talk to people and learn from people and help people, that experience to me is priceless.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit as far as building relationships and getting in the right rooms and making sure you're having the right conversations, because I think that is something that anybody listening to this episode can take away from, because
Sure.
And it's also one of the pillars that we talked about before I hit record, right? The relationship building pillar, and the importance of that. How did you find yourself building those relationships? Do you approach every conversation with, hey, let's make a connection, or were you very, very strategic on who you were talking to?
I had no strategy whatsoever. I had zero strategy. I just made friends with people. And I think that's huge, is being friendly and not making someone feel that you're trying to get something out of them, or you're just making a connection just because they might be able to do something for you. I think that's, especially this day and age, I mean, LinkedIn and all the technology behind that. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not on LinkedIn. Like, I haven't logged into that thing in years. And I always get notifications like, you have 422 new messages. And I'm like, cool, I'm never going to check them because that looks horrible. But for me, building relationships has to have some sort of friendship involved. That's a relationship to me. Whether I'm not saying we're going to go out and have a drink together and we're not, sending each other Christmas cards, but just having a legitimate, real relationship with someone on a personal level where you're just like, you know what, that Joel guy, he's a nice guy. And not them feeling like I'm trying to get something out of them. Now there is such a thing as business relationships, right? Business contacts, things like that. But still, it's got to have some sort of personal level to it. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me, was building relationships on a personal level that was like, hey, not trying to get anything out of you. Let's just connect. And if we can help each other, cool. If not, that's cool too. And being pretty honest about that and being pretty upfront. But I think that's number one, is being honest and authentic about that.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And the fact that you brought up LinkedIn, I've such a terrible relationship with that social media platform.
Yeah.
Like, people send me requests and I'll accept them because I'm like, oh, we have some mutual connections. And within 10 seconds, they're messaging me trying to sell me something, not knowing anything about me.
Yeah. And look, that's where LinkedIn has come into that. All social media platforms eventually lead to that. I mean, we go back to MySpace and everything since then, I get messages, DMs from Instagram all the time. And you could tell it's none of it's authentic and none of it's real. And they're like, how do you want to reach more followers? You want to reach more people? I'm like, no, I'm not really interested in that, because I know what it means. It's fake. And then, half the time I get messages like, hey, we're looking for new female models. Message us. I'm like, you didn't even look at my profile, obviously, because I'm wrong sex, guys. It's every social media platform gets to that eventually. I think, but every social media platform is great. I use Instagram a lot. That's obviously my main platform, but you just got to be able to weed out the real from the unreal.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And you're hitting it on the head for sure. And so as I look at your trajectory, what was it like when you got into Beachbody and you released, I did some research. Hold on. Core de Force was the first one.
Core de Force actually was our first. So that was my first program, co-wrote with my teammate, Jericho McMatthews. So she and I, that was our first program as official Beachbody Super Trainers. We first did a collaborative program that was a collaboration between Les Mills and Beachbody a few years before that. So, but Core de Force, is definitely our first one. You could say that was kind of like my jumping off point, if you will, but I was already involved with Beachbody. So we did that in, I believe it was 2016, I want to say 2015, 2016, at the look. Yeah, 2016. And then it was fun, but it was completely different world for us. So we came out of the group exercise gym world, and I've been working for Gold's Gym by that point. I was their marketing director for LA franchise. So I had a great job, a great career, late 20s, early 30s. And I was like, here we go, man, I'm in. I got a great career. I'm good to go. And then I got the call from the CEO of Beachbody asking if I was interested in doing this project. I was like, what the hell? Might as well. You can always go back to business, right? You can always go back to the gym world. So that's what I did. And it was fun, but man, it was a challenge, because that was still in the DVD era.
Yeah.
But it was kind of right at the edge. So like infomercials were starting to die down and DVDs were going. It wasn't super digital yet, but they were starting to think about that. So we we had to design and film the program in DVD format idea, which means, only so many workouts, because you're limited in disc space and time frame, and got to keep the price point low. So it was interesting. And it was a challenge, but it's still a hell of a program. 30 days with zero equipment, and it'll whoop you. So it was a challenge, but it was I think it was just a great jumping off point into the home fitness world, exclusively into the home fitness world for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've chatted with some people in the fitness space. That we're going back years ago. BJ Gador, who used to work with Men's Fitness, and he's been on the cover a number of times. He tried to break into this space and failed miserably. He's like, I lost everything. It's not an easy space to break into. Obviously, partnering with a company like Beachbody is going to be a massive opportunity. Like, what was it like, a change in your personal life, going from managing the Gold's gyms and being their main trainer, to switching into Beachbody and really becoming a celebrity in your own right? And I use that term only because I don't know what else to say. Like, you're a celebrity status person, right? What was that like as far as a change in your own personal life?
It's very surreal from that standpoint, but I think the number one thing, going from Gold's Gym, traveling around to all the gyms, on the road all day long, all week long, 60, 70 hour weeks plus, to go from that nonstop emails, this and that, to all of a sudden into this different world. It was a transition. It was. And, we always go through this transition when you're making a program where you're nonstop. And then the minute you wrap it and launch it, like, you don't get any more emails for a while, and you're just like, hello. And like, you almost don't. So I always kind of joke, like, I work every other year, because it kind of feels like that sometimes, because if you're not in project mode, you're not getting a lot of stuff from the corporate office, but obviously, I keep myself busy with other things. But it was a transition, and it was a struggle in some respects. And again, that's why I think having a collaborative program where Jericho and I were able to lean on each other a little bit to get it done definitely helped. And we've had some great people at the Beachbody corporate studios office that helped us along the way, that obviously they had been there for a long time. So it was just great all around. But it was a struggle, and it was a hard program to write, because, it's an MMA style training program. That's a very technical thing to start with. So that was a challenge. So a lot of that was just a challenge, but we just were really, really lucky to be at that time and place to get it done. And the way we got it done, it's still a successful program. And it was just a great jumping off point to do it that way. But man, when you're teaching to a camera, it's way different than teaching to live audience and group exercise, because, when you're teaching group exercise and live, you get that energy back. And now all of a sudden you're just staring at this red dot in a lens, and then you have everybody behind the camera, who are sitting there just judging you. So, and everything that you're trying to say. So it takes a little getting used to. We practice, we rehearse, we did it. And that's the big thing too, is, nobody ever sees all the effort and work that goes into these programs, but it's a year plus from start to finish of not just design, but then of testing and rehearsals. And we rehearse our butts off before we ever even actually push record. And then, so, people are seeing the final polished project, but man, it's a lot of work to get it done.
I was always curious of that as I'm going and dying in a number of these workouts, and I'm going, how do they do this? Like, how, obviously you guys, you're all extremely fit, like everybody who's in these videos, right? But I'm like, this is insane. So I have to ask, I don't even know if you can tell me this.
Sure.
Do you guys ever cut? Do you cut, be like, hold on, let's take a break. Okay, now reset. I don't know if you can share that with me.
Oh, I'll share. I can share what I do. How about that? When we did Core de Force, it was the old, I want to say old school, the older way of the way they did things on DVD, because DVDs were meant to be polished, right? The final polished product. So we did, with Core de Force, we did what was called pickups, where we'd film it all the way through, try not to cut, unless we have what was called a fatal flaw, which we'd have to cut, and that was a challenge, because there's two of us in the lead spot in front of camera A. So, if we got off sync or something like that, we'd have to cut and get back on sync. And then we do what's called pickups, where, there's a director, producer, all this whole team of people watching. They're making notes of like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that. So we did pickups, we did VOs, voiceovers, and everything. So what you see in Core de Force is very polished from that standpoint, which was good, I think, because again, it's a very technical program. So, I think it was great that we did it that way, because it shows us, we want to make sure everything is spot on in terms of technique for that home viewer, to make sure they're getting it precise. Real time is kind of the new thing now, live, real time, things like that. So when we did Lift 4, that was shot, every single workout was shot in one take. We never cut. And it was obviously it was easier for me. We shot that personal training style, which we were talking about right before you push record, where it was a new concept, where people were like, how come the guy's not working out? All the other people are working out, but he's not working out. Well, it was on purpose. There was all this like conspiracy theories, like, oh, Joel was injured, that's why he didn't work out. And I wasn't injured. I felt really strongly about the fact that I was like, because the program itself, we're going back to basics of weightlifting, weightlifting 101, hypertrophy training, 3 sets of 10. So I was like, I want let's film this like a personal training video, like where people, that way I can focus on the cues and the safety elements and how to get more out of it, and perceived exertion and all these different things. So I could really make sure the home user, which is the whole point, is getting the most out of it. So we did shoot that 100% live, never cut. Every now and then you got to do a couple of VOs and things like that. But for the most part, what you see is what you get. And I think the reason I can do that is, number one, practice and preparation, because we practice so much and rehearse so much, and in writing these programs, they're in my brain. They're like ingrained in my soul. So I know these programs. I
couldn't even imagine like how many times you've
well, and then on top of that, I have an IFB in my ear while we're filming, which has on the other side is the voice of one of my, they're called, she's from FNR, and she's like my right-hand person that helps me go over these programs, write them, everything. Her name is Eleni, and she's been with me from the start. And so she's in my ear, helping me make sure I'm staying on rep count and safety cues and all these different things. There's no way you can remember everything. So I got a voice in my head, literally voices in my head while I'm talking on top of it. And that just the first time I did it, we were in rehearsal and she put the IFB in and she said something like, I turned my head because it freaked me out. So it's rehearsal, and then you get used to it. And then in 10 rounds, went back old school, and so to speak, in terms like, okay, I'm going to do the workouts with everybody. But I wanted to, and I had the IFB in my ear. And again, it was just, we rehearse our asses off. And years of teaching group exercise, I think definitely helped, of learning how to breathe properly while you're talking, and, then getting used to the IFB. So, third program in, I feel like we've hit a groove, and you just kind of hit that groove after a while, but it's years of work to get to that one point. There's no question.
Yeah. I just want to point out, I wasn't the one curious as to why you weren't working out before. It was my girlfriend's 10-year-old son. He goes, how is that guy so jacked? He's not even doing anything. Literally it came out of his mouth. And I think it was like 30 seconds before you mentioned like, oh yeah, that was tough. It was tough for you, or some joke about it being tough for them.
Yeah. That looked really hard for you.
Yeah. That joke. So with that being said, that's where that came from. But you said something interesting pretty early on in this conversation. You go, you're operating at level 11. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means to you. Because I think a lot of people see somebody like yourself who is, a go-to person in the fitness space, in shape all the time, like, all these things, right? What does living at a level 11 mean for you?
It's really just become a level of finding my consistency, and finding two things: finding my authenticity and finding my consistency. And number one, the authenticity is finding out who I am and what I want out of life, and what I want to do on a daily basis, and who I want to be, and everything like that. And that's evolving. It's always evolving. I'm not saying it'll always be the same thing, but it definitely, what I realized, number one, I realized it's always evolving, but number two is like, okay, this is how it works right now. This is what I want right now. And this is what I'm going to go after right now. So the authenticity is huge, and just knowing, and just saying like, look, this is what you get. That's it. Like, it's not going to be any different. And, so my favorite thing is hearing when I meet somebody in person at a Beachbody event or something like that. They're like, man, you're exactly like the person on Instagram that we see. That is the best possible compliment I could ever get, is hearing that, is saying, is anybody who sees me in the workout videos or on Instagram or something like that, and they meet me in person, is to a T, I want that to be the exact same person that they meet. So that's where the authenticity comes into it. The consistency aspect of it, I have found my consistency in my, my nutrition, my workouts, and just my day to day. And so it's like, no, I'm not always super shredded and ripped, but I'm always fit, because when I'm at home, I'm always dialed in on my nutrition, for the most part. And that allows me then, when I go off to, Montana for the week with the boys, I don't have to worry about it. And we still, we're going to drink a bunch of stuff like that, but we still always, we're active as hell. We don't stop moving. So that always helps. And then, we're just eating pretty much steak and veggies the entire time. We're guys, all we want to do is eat meat. But it's the consistency in everything, where I'm just finding, we find, my wife and I, we have a company called Cater Fit that we've been using for over 4 years now. They're based out of Miami. They're here in LA. They're great. And we love them. We do them for lunch and dinner 6 days a week, because it works out with our macros and works out with our calories. So, we find that consistency. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is I've found that consistency that works for me. It's not going to work for everybody. I'd rather do a bunch of other stuff than be in the kitchen all day cooking. So, but that's what works for me. We don't have kids. I'm sure if we had kids, it'd be a little bit different. So it's finding that consistency that works for you and fits into your lifestyle.
Yeah, you'd be making mac and cheese every meal on the side.
Yeah, I would be. I'd probably be eating a bite of it every single time, because I love mac and cheese. So, but that's, that works. What works for us is because we don't have kids and we don't have anything. We just don't have that food in the house. And that obviously makes a big difference. Like, because I'm not a sweets guy. I'm not a sugar guy. But yeah, if you have mac and cheese in the house, or like, Doritos or something like that, then I would be eating them all day long. So, for me, I just got to make sure it's not in the house.
Yeah. You had mentioned, you started working in a gym at 19. You're like, well, it's a job. And you didn't think it would necessarily be a career. Why is fitness like a passion of yours? Where did that come from? And obviously now you're, 20 years later, it's still your passion.
The reason it pulled me in later, a few years down the road from working that front desk, was I realized it was such a positive place to be. And that was my favorite thing about it, where is I say, like, no one ever walks into a gym to get worse or to fail. So that brings a level of positivity that I loved being around. There was always, it's still a business, so there's always the bullshit behind it, no matter what. But for the most part, no one ever starts working out with the intention of failing or getting in worse shape, right? So that level of positivity really brought me in and sucked me into it, and that's why I've stuck in it so long, because it's so positive. And my wife calls me the eternal optimist, because I am. I'm usually a pretty positive guy, even on when shit hits the fan. I always find the silver lining in things and be like, well, this is for the best. We're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. Drives her crazy sometimes, but it's in doing that though. I just, I sleep great every night. And, but that's why I love it. And then moving forward in my career, I was always looking at, okay, how do we spread this positivity more? How do we reach more people? How do we get more people moving and more people working out and more people in shape and all these different things? And with Beachbody, I saw that as a massive opportunity, because in the gym world, you're geographically isolated, obviously, to where the gyms are. But then all of a sudden, Beachbody, I was like, holy shit, we could reach the world, man. And so that's really, for me, that's what I want in my career with Beachbody. I'm gonna be with them as long as they want me, and keep making programs. And with my programs, especially, what I could say is for my solo projects, lift 4 and 10 rounds, and anything I do in the future, I just want people to get these workouts. When they finish the workout, they'll be like, man, that was hard, but man, I feel good. And then, I just want to bring that level of positivity. I don't want to ever try to beat somebody down or feel that they can't do it or feel that it's too hard for them. I want to build them up and understand and help them understand that they can.
Yeah, no, dude, I love that. And obviously having that mindset into pretty much anything in your life is game changing, right? Like I have a friend named Ed Milet who says all the time, life is happening for me, not to me, right? So even when things hit the fan or whatever, like how can you find that silver lining so you can move forward? Where did that come from in your life? Like a lot of people don't get that until later. This seems like how you're talking. It seems like this was bred into you as a young kid.
It wasn't, it wasn't, I can't attribute it to anything in particular in terms of childhood or anything like that. It was just, again, it came from experience. It was just experience for me early on. The minute I graduated high school, I was out of there, man, and went to college at Texas Tech for 3 years, left it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then living up in Washington State for 8 years, it was trial and error, and, had the highs, had the lows, and there were some pretty dark lows, man, of which involved a lot of booze and even some painkillers at times, so I've gone through some lows. And it was around that time that I'm presented with the opportunity of moving back down to LA, where I'm originally from. Family lives here. And this was in 2011 I remember, I never forgot it, because I was, when I got the opportunity, I was like, hell yeah, I took it. And if it didn't fit in my car, I had just a little 4-door car at the time. If it didn't fit in the car, I gave it away or sold it and just left. And drove down to LA and, rented a room on the way, found a room to rent on the way down. And was like, all right, this was a chance to start over. And not a lot of people get that chance at 28, right? 27, 28. So I was like, okay, now's the time to really, so I had a good talk with myself on that 2-day drive down, to really figure it out. And I was like, now's the time to hammer it. Because it's like, how many times do you get that opportunity to do it? And look, it's not to say since then I've made mistakes. I totally have, but it was, and then just saying, okay, cool. Like the minute you make the mistake, it's like, okay, not going to do that again, and learning from it and keep going with that. And I think that's why, from that level of positivity, that I've been able to stick with that, because it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to mess up again. I guarantee you in my life, it's going to happen again, but it won't be the same thing that it was. It's not gonna be the same mistake. It's gonna be a different mistake. And I think that's, in my book, it's okay to make different mistakes, just as long as they're not the same ones.
Yeah. And then don't beat yourself up over it, right? Like obviously years ago, as you're talking, finding yourself, with booze or pills or whatever the case may be, like that's you beating yourself up over those mistakes, man. Like, and that's the big shift. And I think a lot of people, maybe not to an extreme, but a lot of people go through those moments of, I'm going to beat myself up until they finally realize like, it's okay to make a mistake, to have those stumbles, to trip up, to do all those things. And I think that that's a huge lesson for people to take home with them, to be like, look, like I'm going to make a mistake, and again, I imagine people look at you and go, everything looks great, man. He's happily married. He's got this great gig. He's doing all right. But for you to say, I'm going to make mistakes, like, having to rest up all day yesterday. Right. Like,
I mean, yeah, look, that's the thing that people have to remember. What everybody sees on social media is a snapshot, one picture a day, several stories a day. Like nobody ever sees everything. And nor do I believe everybody should see everything. It's a highlight reel, and that's how I've chosen to use mine, and use the stories of things that I think people might want to see. If they don't want to see it, then they don't have to follow me. But I always try to show a little bit of glimpse into my life, because I think from because it seems like people want to see that. But yeah, there's the down days. Sick as a dog 2 days ago. Lovely food poisoning and no idea really where it came from, but so yesterday was the Lethal Weapon marathon for me and on the couch. So there are those days that are good and there are those days that are bad, but people have to remember that nobody has it all together. Nobody. I don't give a crap what you think you see and what they say. Nobody has it completely figured out. Nobody has it together. We're all just figuring out as we go. I really believe that. And, but it's making the best of it as you do it, as you go along the way. And there's going to be those days that I'm not going to be in the best of moods, but I'm going to still just keep grinding.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. So much wisdom in that too, as far as, social media is the highlight reel, right? Like nobody's sharing their rock bottom moments every single, well, there are some people and I tend not to follow them.
Well, because some people like to really dwell on that a little too much. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It just, I think there's a thing. I think there's such a thing as oversharing. I definitely think that. But just, like, okay, you need to get off social media and you need to live your life. I think there's a delicate balance in between those things. And I try to, do a little bit of both, but I also treat social media like a job. And I think that's a big difference. It's not for me, something that I am always like, oh, I wonder what's happening on Instagram. I honestly don't care. But what I do care about is connecting with the people who are doing my programs and seeing their progress, just like if I was a personal trainer, checking in with my clients. And so that's a job. So, and I do love connecting with people on that personal level when I can. But I think that's the biggest thing is I treat it like a job. And so not as a part of me, not as anything else other than this is a tool to connect with people and use it. But man, you can't go down that rabbit hole, because you do, and you start comparing yourself and you do all this other stuff. And that's a slippery slope, man.
It is. So obviously with this podcast, I've had the opportunity to talk to some of the world's most successful people, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Ooh, deep questions. My definition of success is, it is always going to be different for everybody, but I just want to wake up every day being happy with where I am, who I am. And I want to go to sleep every day being happy with where I am and who I am. I think because I've been in those places where I wasn't happy with who I was, and I wasn't happy where I was. Money will come and go. But being happy with where you are and who you're surrounding yourself with, I think so that's, for me, that's the definition of success. You can make money in a lot of different ways these days, but it doesn't mean you're going to be happy about the money that you're making or anything like that. So that's the biggest thing for me. The 3 things that I practice on a daily basis. Number 1, being real. Again, what you see on social media is who you get in real life. So that realness, that authenticity, I think is massive. Being consistent with what I'm doing, like not just staying fit. Like I want to stay fit, but I'm never going to be like, I'm not going to walk around shredded 24/7, like if I'm shooting the cover for a product, because that's
exhausting.
It is. It's horrible. I hate it, but it looks great for the pictures, and that's the marketing aspect of it. But I don't want a 6-pack every day, because that means I'm missing out on a lot of stuff that I enjoy, which is whiskey and burgers and a lot of other, all the junk food stuff. So consistency is huge. And then at the end of the day, you just got to do what makes you happy. And that's the biggest thing is that's what I do. I do what makes me happy. I'm lucky enough to be in a spot where I've worked my ass off to be in a spot where it allows me to do these things, and travel a little bit more with my guys and meet them for ski trips and this and that. But even before that, even before I had the money to travel, I didn't travel. I was just around. I was just surrounding myself with people that I look forward to seeing. I never want to hang out with people that I'm like, oh, we got to have dinner with the Smiths again or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't then why? If you're not looking forward to it, then why do it? So yeah, I think that's the other thing is just do what makes you happy, man. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who don't make you happy, then move on. And sometimes those are easy decisions. Sometimes it's a really hard decision that might even involve a spouse or something like that. But man, I say, my two biggest things that I say on my posts on a weekly basis. Number one is work out for what? We did a great video with the team down in Texas, and it's on my Instagram. My IGTV is called Workout for What? And it was all about focusing on not what the workout does, but what the workout can do for you. And that's huge. So workout for what is my big thing. And the second thing is you just got to do what makes you happy, and be authentic to yourself and you have one life. You got one opportunity to give this a shot. Taking religion out of it, because some people, like, I get messages all the time. They're like, well, you have more than one. I'm like, okay, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about right now is you got one shot, one opportunity to make it work. And Eminem said that in one of his songs. One shot, one opportunity. But it's true, true. And that's the way I see it. That's why I'm operating 11. I'm not gonna step off the gas, because I'm only gonna get older. So might as well just get faster as I get older.
There you go, man. I love it. So what's next? What's next for you, man? So how long ago was 10? Actually, I think you're celebrating it today. A year ago was 10 rounds, right?
Yeah. So 10 rounds. Today was the 1-year anniversary of 10 rounds hitting Beachbody on demand, April 6th, 2020. It was crazy. And it's done great. It's hit over 9 million views already. We celebrated 25 million last January with Lift 4, so now a year later it's creeping up on almost 30 million, I think now. So it just shows that, like, I want to make lifestyle programs. I want to make these programs that people are always going to come back to, and not just do for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So that's huge. What's next? From the personal standpoint, I think we've established that. I'm just going to keep going and keep pushing it, keep pushing the envelope as much as possible. And then from the professional standpoint, it's a lot of I can't tell you. These things are always kind of they're kept under wraps until they're not. But we're always working on stuff. We're always new concepts, new ideas, lots of collaborations, and it's an amazing time to be a Beachbody right now. Obviously announced a few months ago going public. That's huge for a network marketing company to do that. And to me that's a lot of stuff that I don't even know what it means yet. But what I do know is that it means that we're bringing up, that's just opens the doors for a lot new, more assets coming in and more opportunities coming in. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they find you? All that stuff.
Everything, all my social media, Instagram is my main platform, Joel Freeman Fitness. That's on Instagram. That's on my Facebook. And those are the two. I mean, it's Twitter. Everything goes from automatically posted from Instagram to Twitter. So I don't really engage people on that, but Joel Freeman Fitness, joelfreemanfitness.com. Website has everything linked there. All my programs and stuff like that.
And do not hit him up if you are looking for a female fitness model. He's not interested.
Those are my favorite ones. I love that. They're like, we think you'd be great for our new female leggings. I was like, I don't think I will be. So
yeah, I don't think so. But thanks. I appreciate it. But dude, like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
In my life, my biggest moment of growth, I think, was that drive down from Washington State to California. 2 days by myself, knowing that it was just an amazing, rare second chance to start over and to really nail it. And that's what I did. So that was my biggest moment of growth. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Joel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time, your wisdom, all the fun stuff, man. This has been phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. My pleasure, brother. Appreciate everything, man. And congrats on all of your success too. You got a wall of fame behind you, dude.
We'll put you somewhere, maybe over there.
Yeah. Put me right out of frame, just like that. Actually, just take Sean T down and put me up, and then I'll just and then send me a screenshot so I can text it to him just to mess with him.
That'll be perfect. That'll actually be the move. That's what I'm doing, and it's going to happen for sure. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.